Hi, fourth grade, and welcome back. As we talk about our journey through westward expansion. We are now going to be talking about the California Gold Rush. So we are learning about the California Gold Rush and the expansion of people across the United States, because the United States did not always used to be this populated, full of people across the entire United States. We know we'll be successful when we can describe why people wanted to move west because of the gold rush, and we can explain how the United States came to gain the land to travel west. Some of our vocabulary words. So the first word is gold rush. This is the mass movement of people to an area where gold has been recently discovered. Territory is an area or region of land that belongs to and is governed by a country. Miners are people who remove gold from a mine. We have pioneers, and those who were the first to explore or live in a place. And a revolted is to rise up and fight against a government or other authority. And you can see here in our pictures where they are mining for gold during the gold rush. So we're going to start off with lesson 1. So we're going to do a little introduction to what the gold rush was, and then chapters 1 and 2 today. And here it says people from all over the world came to California in search of gold. As we are reading, I want you guys to find the truth. So I want you to think, which one do you think is true? Is it that the San Francisco 49ers football team is named after the gold miners? Or is it that most American gold seekers traveled to California by railroad? So we're going to find the answers in this book. And here they're giving you a picture, an example of a miner's pick that they would use to mine for gold. Here we have our table of contents, so some of the different chapters that we will be reading, including a fantastic discovery. And before the gold rush, that's where we will start off with today. California state motto, Eureka, is a Greek word for meaning I have found it. I'm sure you can assume what they were finding. All right, fourth grade, and we're going to start off with our introduction video this morning.
Is it true that America's most famous gold rush began with an accidental find? Yes. In January 1848, a carpenter was building a sawmill beside a river in Northern California. He noticed something sparkling in the water. It was gold. Word spread quickly, and soon the entire nation and the world had caught gold fever. In 1849 alone, 90,000 gold seekers, called 49ers, made the journey to California. Some went by ship to the port of San Francisco. Others traveled overland in covered wagons. Both routes were difficult and dangerous. Life in the mining camps was rough, and hunting for gold was hard work. Few miners found enough to get rich. By 1853, most of the easy-to-find gold was gone. The gold rush was over. But it brought lasting changes. San Francisco grew from a quiet village to a bustling city. And because so many people moved to California, it became a state in 1850. To find out more about the California Gold Rush, read the book.
So there's our little introduction to the California Gold Rush. You can see how it impacted the United States already for the positive and the negative. So we're going to read more in detail to figure out more about the California Gold Rush. So a fantastic discovery. On January 24th, 1848, a carpenter named James Marshall made a discovery that changed U.S. history. He was building a sawmill for his business partner, John Sutter, beside a river in Northern California's Sacramento Valley. Suddenly, something bright in the water caught his eye. Marshall bent down and picked up a piece of shiny metal. He had found gold. Can you imagine if you had found gold, what would happen? I'm sure it'd be hard to keep it a secret. So here's James Marshall stands in front of the Sutter Mill, and it says Marshall bit the metal he found as a test to find out if it was gold. The rush for gold. Marshall and Sutter tried to keep their discovery a secret, but the word got out and spread quickly. Soon, the gold rush was on. Thousands of Americans and foreigners raced to California in search of gold. They came by ship and covered wagon. In the end, few of them struck it rich. Would you have tried to go to California to search for gold? I know I might have tried to do that too. Up here it says in 1849, about 6,000 wagons traveled to California from the American Midwest. So remember, the Midwest is our region of the United States. So as we're talking about how the United States came to be and all of these regions started to really form, the gold rush is an important part of that. So here it says some wagon trains traveled more than 2,000 miles to reach California. So there was good and bad. So before Marshall's discovery, California was a territory of the United States. So remember, it was just territories that were like where they're owned. After the discovery of gold, it became the country's 31st state in 1850. As gold seekers poured into California, new towns sprang up overnight. Money earned from gold was used to build factories and railroads. But the discovery of gold wasn't good for everyone. Native Americans, African Americans, and foreign miners were not treated fairly, and mining methods polluted the land. I'm sure you know what pollution means, but that means they're ruining some of the land that they were in. And during the gold rush, San Francisco, California was a busy city. We now know San Francisco to be really popular too. Now, too. Chapter 2, Before the Gold Rush. So now we're going to figure out how all of this land came to be. In the 1540s, the first Europeans in California were Spanish explorers. They were searching for a city of gold and for a river that was said to stretch from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific. Their searches were unsuccessful because neither the city nor the river actually existed. By 1775, Spain controlled a great deal of land in North America that included Mexico and present-day Texas and California. And here it's showing you early Spanish explorers mistakenly believed that California was a gigantic island rather than it was attached. And here Spanish explorers were among the first Europeans to visit the California coast. Lands of the West. By 1821, Mexico was no longer controlled by Spain, and it took over the rest of Spain's territories west of the Mississippi River. This made California part of Mexico. The United States was also growing in size during this time. It became increasingly interested in Mexico's new territories. In 1835 and again in 1845, the U.S. government offered to buy California, but Mexico refused to sell the land. And here you can see a map of the United States. It's cut off there just a little bit. Oh, there we go. And so these were states that were already here. And here, what we now know is like Texas and California, all of that region that we've learned about, that was owned by Mexico. So you can see the different regions and what they were known. And here, this was unorganized land. And then they have Oregon up there. So this map of the United States in 1830 shows a territory controlled by Mexico. California calling. In the 1830s, small numbers of people began moving from other parts of the United States to California. Most were traders, fur trappers, or hunters and adventurers. By the mid 1840s, California was home to about 1,000 Americans, several thousand Californios, these are Spanish speaking settlers from Mexico, and more than 100,000 Native Americans. And here it shows you California is rounding up thousands of cattle. And it says, before the gold rush, most Californios lived on huge cattle ranches. So this became trouble for Mexico. By 1845, Mexico was losing much of its land it had controlled. Thousands of Americans, known as pioneers, were traveling west by wagon in search of better lives in California and the Pacific Northwest. Many of those pioneers believed that the United States had a right to expand its territories as far west as the Pacific Ocean. Over time, Americans living in Texas and California began pushing for freedom from Mexican rule. Up here you can see pioneers who were traveling west loaded their wagons with supplies at towns along the Missouri River. And then we have a California victory. In 1835, Americans in Texas revolted against Mexico. 10 years later, Texas became America's 28th state. When a war broke out between the United States and Mexico in 1846, Americans in California also revolted. The war ended on February 2nd, 1848, with an American victory. Mexico gave the United States control of half of its territories, including California. And so America's victory increased the size of the United States by almost 525,000 square miles, which is more than 1 million square kilometers. So there was good and bad about the gold rush. Explain one positive and one negative effect from the gold rush using text evidence from page 9 that will be included in your seesaws as a reference, 4th grade. I can't wait to continue learning about the California gold rush with you guys. Have a good day. See you soon.